Lots happening on the markets today. We had a positive start. We turned negative after China announced it was raising interest rates by 25 basis points, and that negative for metal prices, of course. In the meantime, we had gold rising very nicely this afternoon, $9,900 an ounce. That's the highest since March last year in rand terms, but also picking up quite nicely in dollar terms to about $1,360. So we have a couple of different forces pulling our market today.
Yeah, and I think the key feature there, probably nothing particularly strong in either way. That announcement from China on the last day of their week-long holiday seemed to catch the market unawares. But I guess, you know, in the long run, it is a good decision, and it just means that people in China will look more to keep their money in deposits rather than speculating in equity and property.
Implications for our market, though, in the meantime, because we had a very nice rise last week on the back of resources stocks. This week's been a bit softer for our equities, but after that strong rise, would you expect perhaps a little bit of a pullback?
Yeah, I think, you know, that typically is what happens. At the moment we are in overbought territory, but we're going into reporting season, which started a couple of days ago, and we expect to see some you know, pretty significant earnings improvements, particularly from the resource companies, where we expect earnings to be 40–50% higher. And I think what will surprise the market is the scale of the dividend improvements, and I think that will drive the markets going forward over the next 4 to 6 weeks as we go through that reporting season.
Have we already started to see that coming through? We had Anglo Plat yesterday coming through with its results, so kicking off the season. We had Harmony Gold as well coming out with numbers, ArcelorMittal today, and that was a nice turnaround, though I think it wasn't quite as good as the markets had expected, because that share was under pressure this morning.
Yeah, I think it was quite a big miss if one looks at the consensus expectations. It probably missed that number, you know, probably in the order of about 35%. But I think the key thing was that you know, the trend has improved for them. Margins up, sales volumes were up quite nicely, about 13% across the board, and across each division they reported very strong sales growth. And I think probably why the share didn't weaken more significantly was that their outlook was pretty positive, and they said they expected a fairly good first quarter result.
Well, we had Nankula Nyembezi-Hater, the CEO, speaking earlier in the show, and after quite a poor fourth quarter when sales fell a little bit, they've seen stronger sales and prices in the first quarter, so those raw material prices feeding through to steel prices as well. Now, so it bodes well for this year, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's a very difficult share to call, and I think you know, the fortune of the company certainly over the medium term is going to be made by the outcome of a court case. And you know, I'm not one who's in favour of investing in a share on the back of a court case, because it can go 50-50. The fourth quarter, as you mentioned, was quite dire for them. I think they actually reported a headline loss for that period as they felt the full impact of the increased iron ore prices from Sishen coming through, and felt the impacts of the strike earlier on in the year. At this stage, I think it's quite a difficult share to call. You know, it's got a history of being a stars and gutter type of share. If it went to 140 Rand, it wouldn't surprise me, and if it went to 60 Rand, it wouldn't surprise me. So
trading at 85 Rand, you'd rather steer clear till you have more clarity about future supply from Kumba iron ore?
Yeah, I think it's been historically very volatile. It's a difficult share to call, to get any sort of visibility in terms of earnings. So for that reason, we've tended to avoid it.
Northern Platinum coming out with an announcement today. It's going to be buying Mvelapanda Resources for 982 million Rand. And at the same time, Mvelapanda is going to be delisted, which was the long-term plan for Mvela Resources. Yeah,
exactly. Mvela was going to be resourced, so Northern just coming in, doing some mopping up. I think they're going to offer about 21 million shares for the balance of Mvela Resources, which at this stage comprises a stake in Dwalcorp, Transhex, and some exploration interests. So yeah, loses some interest across the platinum and diamond industries. It's probably trading around a 7% discount to NAV at the moment, so quite a small discount, and it would have delisted anyway because it contravened the JSE listing requirements.
And we had Goldfields unbundled recently as well from Mvelapanda Resources. What does all this mean for shareholders of the groups?
It's quite difficult if one looks at Northern, because at the same time we've seen all the corporate structuring in terms of their own development. They've got massive capex projects coming through at Booysendal, so the share price kind of imputing what's going to happen at that resource over the next 2 to 3 years. So yeah, I guess the risk profile for that business in particular is heightened because it's at a stage where it isn't producing what it is going to be. But it's an interesting play at the moment.